Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the second year of my Sweden Democracy Free campaign. But first, a couple of differences that I'm going to have from the first year. So basically, during the first episode, I went through a lot of game mechanics. So with things like feedback loops, memberships, etc. I'm probably not going to continue to do that because having to do that ended up extending the footage a lot. So as you can probably tell by the video runtime, the actual raw footage of the entire first episode was 1.5 hours. What it ends up being, I don't know yet. I haven't fully finished editing it, but you can see. So I'm probably going to speed through this a bit more. If you guys want me to do a more, I guess, game mechanic based episode where I just explain parts of the game, then I'm happy to do that. But other than that, I'm probably going to get more into the running of the country, into the politics of it, and less into kind of the game mechanics. Although one thing does bear mentioning, and the reason why I've like editing the first episode, I realized that I just keep talking about the economy. And the reason I do that is because the economy basically allows you to do. If you have a shit economy in this game, you're pretty screwed. Whereas if you have a good economy, you can pretty much do anything, because the GDP does affect a lot, as I've said about 15 times in the first episode. So that's why there's almost the obsessive focus on it. But as I said, let's get right into it. Okay, so appoint gallery director. We need a new director for our National Art Gallery, blah, blah. We can choose between a patron of classical art and a radical avant-garde curator. Art inspires thought, so the choice will have impact on ideological thinking in our nation. So we can either appoint somebody who promotes our cultural heritage or somebody who is quite scandalous and spark racial tension and make us more educated, whereas this is more conservative and patriotic values. I think that here's the thing. This is a national art gallery, the National Art Gallery run by the government. The National Art Gallery, if it's a private art gallery, then you can go for all of the more controversial, the more controversial kind of like the Lenin Forsberg style. But I'm going to go for the more cultural heritage style because I'm kind of envisioning the National Art Gallery kind of more as an art gallery of our nation, an art gallery that represents our nation, much like the government represents our nation. So that's the choice I'm going to make. We continue to have a surplus. I mean, the screen hasn't changed since last episode. So, GDP is up, unemployment down, health is up, 62% of the vote. We have about 50 billion surplus. Let's go. Alright, so we still have the enduring problem. And the enduring problem is that we have a lot of taxes. We have a lot of taxes. We're getting capitalist membership, right? But in order to avoid a socialist assassination, we have to make sure that we don't piss off the socialists faster than the share of socialists decrease. Because you're either a socialist or a capitalist. You cannot be both. And I said I wouldn't be talking about game mechanics. All right. So we have to deal with the strikes. Now the thing is that a lot of this is public sector healthcare with some private healthcare. You can tell that by the percentages. So and honestly, listen. You're being paid taxpayer dollars. You don't get a strike. So we're going to have to suppress this really, really quickly, and probably move to a more private healthcare situation. So I'm basically what I'm trying to do is build a capitalist state in Sweden. our first move should be to have a look at expenditure. States grants. Oh right, we had an alcohol problem, didn't we? Also, yeah, this is being recorded the day after the first episode was recorded, so that's why I have to kind of get back into it. All right. So we're going to have to drive up more of that kind of that capitalist sentiment, and one of the best ways to do this is an enterprise investment scheme. Basically, what an enterprise investment scheme is that it's basically tax incentive, I guess you could say, for the wealthy to invest their money in particularly small companies, so that there's more small business that can thrive within the nation. So personally, I believe that this is a really good policy because it, as long as that is good oversight, that it's not being used for corruption, because it can be, but if it works properly, then it's a really good initiative, because the thing is that with the free market, the market is going to respond much faster than the market of small businesses is going to respond much faster than the market in big businesses, because purely because of bureaucracy, because bureaucracy uh, basically affects any organization that is of sufficient size, right? The larger the organization, the more bureaucracy there is, the longer it takes for information to travel, the longer it takes for the demand of some product to reach, the people who are responsible for making the products. So the thing is that small businesses are therefore in a much better position to solve solve demands, because they're very much at the ground level. And if you're at the ground level, then you know the issues, you know the demand. I mean, an example of this would be this very game. I mean, Democracy Free is very much a niche game. It's very much a niche game that probably wouldn't have been published by a large publisher, because the demand's just not there. But because of the propagation of small businesses, it has been able to be published. And like anything that encourages small business is, in my view at least, a pretty good policy. So we are going to enact this, both for in-game and out-of-game reasons. Now the next thing is that as we saw last episode, I'm trying to build the country's GDP through the country's economy rather, through just being technologically superior, right? Because there is an in-game modifier that does that, and also, if you have a country that is quite small, population-wise, that does not have a bunch of natural resources, we're not Norway with their massive reserves of oil, or most of the countries in the Middle East, then you have to have some edge. And we're in a really good position to take advantage of the technology edge. And so we're going to do things like public libraries. And public libraries, yeah, they cost a lot, sure, but it improves our education. And remember that all of these are, like these are flat increases. So plus 6.33% is quite significant. And it does improve equality, but that's not really why I'm doing it. And public libraries are actually something that is, honestly, I believe is really important, because out of game, it does promote that kind of equality. It does give a lot of opportunities for kind of the people who are less well off to, access educational literature, right? And I'm not just talking about like textbooks and stuff. I'm also talking about, things like, if you if you're very interested into politics, which if you're watching this series, I'm going to assume that you probably are, reading things like political works. Obviously, again, oversight, right? Every good idea can be turned terrible. But I think public libraries, uh, in general, are just a good idea. And even if they do cost a lot to establish and maintain and etc., and public libraries end up either not getting used or used purely by high school and college students. I mean, at least that's what I see. So yeah, we're going to turn this up to the maximum. It is going to assist our country. We have the surplus to do it. I mean, we have to get rid of this debt, but we can't get it through just cutting expenditure. We have to expand income and expand it quite significantly because, I mean, even if even if we cut the expenditure to zero, this this will still take what, 700 plus 350, that's 1,050. So it still take a solid full year for this entire thing for the entire debt to be solved, even if we cut the expenditure to zero. And we're not going to cut the expenditure to zero. And that's the thing, right? We have to continually expand our economy. Increasing expenditure is fine as long as income increases faster. And that's kind of my goal. And similarly, that's what I'm going to do with science funding, right? So it increases technology, increases state employee membership, decreases unemployment, increases GDP. But on the long term, it increases our technology. And hopefully, in the second year, the theme of this year, I think, is probably going to be technology. If the theme of last year, actually, that's probably how I'm going to name the episodes. So, you'll see from the episode title. So let's go next turn. All right, second turn, market meltdown. Oh, Jesus. So the global economy just crashed. The capitalists hate us. And now we're going to have a lot of socialists. Corporate exodus is now an end, probably because of the market, maybe because of the market meltdown. I mean, there isn't really anywhere to go. But GDP is down. Unemployment's still going down, actually. The health is going down as well. Obesity is now a problem. Is in a recession. Okay. And look at the teal. Oh, jeez. Okay. And even our relative GDP is falling as well. Although we still do have a surplus. And that hasn't really, the surplus hasn't really changed. You can see here, right? Like the debt is still continuing to go down. We're still paying it off. But that is an issue. Okay. Alright, I guess change of plan. I guess we're not gonna have the. I mean, because if you look at our technology, it's up there. But we were able to get a lot of the stuff passed. Now we just have to deal with the economic crisis. All right, uncompetitive economy. Oh gee. Okay. All right, back to the GDP. Yeah, the global economy minus 11%. Oh jeez. This reduces our GDP by a lot. Poverty. It does reduce poverty as well, but reduces our GDP. It reduces crime. Well, I mean, GDP is. Yeah, and it'll take time for poverty to tick down. So actually, we shouldn't cancel it. We should just, there are limited rights for consumers. This, personally, I'm not a big fan of this policy. I'm not a big fan of, limiting consumer rights. But, desperate times call for desperate measures. Okay, religious holidays. This is hurting our productivity. To be clear, I'm not particularly against religious holidays. Uh, if there's a majority religion, if there is a majority religion, then yes, we should have religious holidays because these are days that are important. But again, we have to fix this productivity problem. So we're gonna cut that down to 1 day a quarter. And yeah, in order to solve the obesity problem, poor earnings, health foods, health food subsidies. This is actually probably a good thing as well because it, it's a lot better than kind of like I guess the the opposite, right? The opposite is the junk food tax. If the government can afford it, it is by far the better policy because the punitive measures of having a junk food tax, it's just going to get priced into the purchase of the product. I mean, people are still going to buy it. Let's be honest. Those who are less well off to eat better, cheaper, whereas the alternative is to have the less well off be forced to eat healthier at a higher cost. So this is by far the better policy of the two, and also health food subsidies. I mean, it's always much better to talk about what kind of food is healthy than what kind of food is unhealthy, because otherwise you're just gonna get lobbying groups. Let's be honest. Well, you're gonna get lobbying groups either way, but health food, there's at least a foundation, right? Something that say a banana, right? Like the banana example shown here, right? It gives you a ton of potassium. There's almost no way that you can argue that it is not. Whereas if you have something like say potato chips, it's much harder to argue that it is healthy. Comparatively, if you're talking about a junk food, then a potato chip creation company will probably just drag you out in legislation as you try to tax them, and they'll probably just they'll add some token health benefits to their potato chips, which will a probably ruin some types of potato chips, and b will probably be just, as I said, a token gesture. So this is by far the better policy of the two. We just developed obesity. We need it. Let's do it. And again, you can see here, we have been on the edge of it, but they don't tell us that. And the stop triggers down here. So we're going to have to solve this problem. We're going to have to solve it quick. Which is... And it's largely caused by the GDP. Which controls everything. Okay. But we've just used up all of our political capital, so let's go to the next turn. Okay, sexism is down, and that's great. Okay. GM food proposal. I don't like the entire GM food debate, because the thing about the GM food debate is that it is very conspiratorial. I mean, whenever you look at people who are very anti-GM food, right? You're going to stumble onto the name Monsanto, and they're going to talk about how the evil corporations are going to start genetically modifying food to do X, Y, and Z. But or how they're going to start monopolizing the market. But let's be honest, as long as it's disclosed that it's GM, right? Obviously, if you disclose it, right, it is a genetically modified food. I have no problem with that. Disclose it. I mean, nothing to hide, nothing to fear. But in this instance, I'm not talking about security. But the end matter is that banning the sale of GM food really cuts into possibilities. Because genetically modified crops, for example, like all bananas are of the same type. So if we don't make any genetically modified bananas, we could have one blight and a fruit would be completely eliminated. like a source, like a great source of potassium would just have been eliminated. Whereas if we do have GM crops, maybe they'll be able to withstand the blight. So, like there's also the environmentalist argument that we shouldn't tamper with the environment too much, that we're destroying the ecology of some such region. But I think ultimately, when it comes to the aggregate amount of benefit and detriment it has to a nation's health, GM crops should be legal, and that's what I'm going to do. And it also, opens up new fields, right? Say if you want to do research in biology, right? So some certain types of biology or ecology, then like these elements can be integrated into genetically into the GM industry. Whereas, like we shouldn't be closing doors, we should be opening them and seeing, what we can do to, get as much talent into as many fields as possible. And I think GM Foods is a great opportunity for that. And no, I was not paid by Monsanto. Okay, so let's have a look at the situation. Okay, the surplus has decreased. Why? Yeah, okay, the global economy is tanked. Income has decreased. Expenditure hasn't really changed, but income has decreased. Relative GDP is recovering from that, but we still have a surplus, but it's tiny. Speaking of obesity, we should probably fix that quickly because health is important. Firstly, for like, in game as just for productivity reasons, obviously, and the fixing of the economy, and also getting re-elected because sick people do not like their government. If that's the reason they're sick, or even if it's not, but also because obesity is an issue. It is also an issue that we refuse to talk about, which boggles my mind. Uh, Obesity is not something to be celebrated. It really isn't. Now, I'm not saying that if you're obese, that you're X, Y, and Z, but I'm saying that if you're obese, that's not a good thing. It shouldn't be a good thing. It is not a good thing. There's a reason, like obese people on average do not have as healthy of lives, and I think things like the fat acceptance movement, I mean, it's born out of a good place, but it's probably best not to enable bad behavior. I mean, like, you could also have something say, like, a smoking acceptance movement. Yeah, that's great. That's very tolerant of you. But it doesn't really help them. You shouldn't enable their bad behavior. And obesity, it is not good. But back to the game. Okay, free school meals, blah, blah. Okay, Food Standards Agency. Okay, Food Standards Agencies are pretty high, which is pretty good. Farmers don't like it. Well, tough. It does increase food prices because people have to go through the regulatory process. Obesity does go down. Health goes up. This is one of the places where I do believe that you do need government intervention, because Food Standards Agency, we don't want like food that is just absolute crap, right? We don't want food that is designed to be, oh, it's really cheap, it'll fill your stomach, but in 30 years you're gonna die of it. This is, I'm not a big fan of government regulation, but yeah, here this is a good thing. It does increase food prices, both in real life and in the game, but that can be decreased in other ways, and it does help fight obesity. We're gonna enact that. I mean, it doesn't cost too much. Agricultural subsidies. Is it enabling obesity? Yeah, it is. It reduces food prices, decreases health. It gives the farmers loop. It does decrease unemployment, but decreases capitalist support. Agricultural subsidies. I don't like how it's. Yeah, we can pull a Soviet Union. But agricultural subsidies. Why can't the industry compete on its own merits? I mean, is it really that weak of an industry? I don't think it is. All right, let's have a look at the surplus. Income is continuing to drop. Okay, this is probably something we can emphasis on evolution. If I had the power to do it, I would go full evolution only. Creationism can be taught in the church. I mean, unless there's a legitimate theory behind it, which there isn't. A legitimate scientific theory, I mean. Okay, let's have a look at expenditure. State health service. Well, given we have an obesity problem, we probably shouldn't touch that right now. I mean, our GDP took a hit. It did take a hit. But it isn't doing too poorly. Food stamps. The real life effectiveness of food stamps is questionable. I mean, it depends on what you get from those food stamps. And it can also lead to things like government favoritism, etc., etc., etc. But in game, this is an amazing policy, so we're gonna enact it. Increases health massively. Poor earnings and the poor love it. Poverty goes down. I mean, it's just like it's not bad. None of this is bad. So yeah, and I mean it costs $4 billion, but we have the cash to spare. And it looks like the strikes are finally gonna go down. Although I've been predicting that for ages, so maybe I shouldn't speak so soon. Small business grants, again, oversight. In real life oversight. Some small businesses are of more merit than others, but in game, self-employed are gonna love it. It gives us that boost in the GDP. Capitalists are gonna love it. It reduces the membership of socialism, very important. Increases the membership of the self-employed, very important. Increases their income, again, like the entire feedback loop. Trade unions membership goes down. Not too sad about that. Capitalist income goes up. All right, let's go. I mean, why is our environment terrible? No, it's not. Which is nope. Wrong button. Which I guess it's not costing us too much, so I guess I don't mind it too much. What's this? Earned income. This I believe is far better than unemployment benefit, because or kind of like more traditional types of welfare, IRL in real life, because this it's about incentives, right? This gives a direct incentive for people, for like the less well off, to be employed, because your welfare is based off you being employed, right? If you're not contributing to society, then then society doesn't contribute to you. But if you're at least making the attempt, and like if you're getting knocked down, but you're still trying to contribute to society, firstly, it provides a good economic incentive, and secondly, it's just morally fair, right? At least you're trying. And like maybe you got knocked down. We've all been there, and I think it's fair that you do get some, assistance. This is better than traditional welfare, right? You have the stereotype of like the welfare stooge who just sits there. You can't really have that if you can't have like the earned income tax credit, or like the negative income tax, or something to that pedigree, compared to, I guess, kind of the more traditional types of welfare. I think when it comes to welfare, it's important to have a good incentive system. The incentive must be to contribute something, in return for something. You can't just get something because. We have just used up a lot of our money, but that might be something that we could use to have our economy like back up in shape. But we could have a look at to see if there are any new ideas. Oh, the retirement age. I don't like the retirement age. Why? Because I don't see why you have to force somebody to stop working. If somebody wants to work, let them work. Sure, I can get the retirement age in the sense that if you're getting older and you're getting sick, something like Social Security, right? That kind of makes sense. But a fixed retirement age where you just can't work, that makes no sense. At least to me. If somebody wants to work, let them work. I mean, this is a cheap way to get more people to eat healthfully, and we do have an obesity problem. Health. I mean, it doesn't even cost. It costs $250 million. It's nice. Okay. And you're still relatively loyal. Well, I'll be damned. Okay. All right. We can't change the narcotics law. But we get 22 per term, right? We get 22 per term with a maximum of 44. I'm probably going to change the narcotics law. Because right now it's completely outlawed. We could legalize cannabis, which will decrease organized crime. You know, conservatives aren't going to like us. Like general crime will increase. I'm assuming because, some people might get addicted to cannabis. Parents aren't going to like us that much. Liberals are going to like us. But the important thing here is that if you have legal drug consumption, then you can start taxing it. And, it's also just a good policy in general. Because the thing is that something like cannabis, I mean, for example, like in the US, it is so widely used. And indeed, in pretty much the entire West, it is very widely used. I mean, it's illegal in name only. And I would rather that the government be able to, well, not just the government, that more credible parties that, like that local drug dealer can vouch for a product. That's probably better in the long run. So I think the legalization of cannabis is something that is, it is something that makes sense, especially since one could argue it's legal already, just put under the control of those with questionable moralities. So we're gonna save up basically, and we're gonna get that policy, and it also allows us to cozy up to the liberals a bit. I mean, this is a 4-year term. By the halfway point, I don't want to piss off the liberals too much. I mean, they're still satisfied. I mean, their membership is still up. And, they're 96% of the population. I don't mind pissing off the conservatives, because conservatives, I mean, look at this. Again, these are social conservatives, right? We're gonna go next turn. Hey, finally, people stopped drinking ridiculously. GDP's up, health is up, education has almost hit 100%. Unemployment is down, crime is down, poverty is down. I think I'm doing a pretty damn good job. People think so too, because 69% of them are gonna vote for me in the next election. If it was held today, but there's still 2 more years. I think the surplus has actually increased, even though I just put down a lot of measures for spending, which is probably a good thing. Especially since the global economy is also in recession. Okay, power lines. Citizens are protesting against a project to build power lines for their villages. I guess you could link it to things like eminent domain, because you are building on other people's property. But I'm not sure about Swedish law, right? I don't know if there are countries where you cannot own land, right? The government just rents your land. In which case, yeah, obviously you build them. I'm going to choose to build the power lines anyway. No. only because until recently these people have been demanding more clean energy. If you're demanding more clean energy, right, well, they have to be built somewhere. And if you were calling for it and you didn't really give them a place to build them, and then you kind of have it coming. And this is not kind of, this is your fault. Now, if they weren't, right, if they were against it, if they were saying, no, do not build, parts of infrastructure, or at least they were advocating for an unused part of the country where other people wouldn't be affected. If they had some kind of solution, I would be on their side. But they were just screaming about, if they're just screaming about clean energy, and then they're angry when it gets built over them, then you're just being a hypocrite, because then you're pretty much calling for it to be built somewhere else, either at other people's expense, right? Like, this will cost more if you're doing it underground, or just build it over somebody else's village. That's ridiculous. If you had a strategy, if you didn't have a strategy for implementation, then maybe you shouldn't have been demanding it. So yeah, you're gonna get the power lines. You asked for it, you got it. Don't complain. The Heritage Society does not like us. Okay, unemployment's down, crime is down, poverty's down, GDP. Okay, I think I've already gone through that, and I believe this is the last quarter of our second year in office, and I was going to do something. I should probably have written that. Oh right, yeah, narcotics. Should we go all the way to LSD? Wait, revert changes. Do we have an organized crime problem? Yes, we do. Now, I'm not going to go this far, because I do not believe in legal heroin. But, like, LSD, I know it's a step up from cannabis, but, and it does have addiction potential, obviously, but better us than some damn crime lord. And this could fix the crime problem a little bit. Or at least the organized crime problem. The crime problem can be fixed through other means. We'll make the liberals like us, which is important, because after this quarter we're halfway through the term. So, yep, I'm gonna go all the way to LSD. What else can we change? Okay, is this... If I'm not wrong, then these homosexuality laws are... I don't quite remember whether this is for or against, and again, same gripe of the game, why doesn't it tell you? I mean, yeah, because you have the liberal argument, sure, you have the and then you have like the religious argument, sure, but it doesn't tell you, like, are you legalizing it? If you're legalizing it, then of course I'm going to do it, right? Because like, it's not my business. I guess I'll leave the government out of marriage. That just seems to be the just leave the government out of homosexuality. It's not a bad stance. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to do anything with that. A witness protection program. If crime gets too high, a witness protection program is probably, the way to go. I mean, we don't have a pollution problem though, do we? Or a traffic congestion problem, yeah. I mean, is there something, I don't know, that we can cut? Damn it, it's 7. I would have gone and just raised school vouchers. Do we have healthcare vouchers? We do. It's also 7. Damn. Doctors are still striking. Why? Okay, I'm guessing wages are low. No, they're not. They're higher. They're higher than this entire year. All right, we start off the year with low wages, right? Like you can see, like, the first year we pulled down the wages kind of a bit, probably because of the change of the labor laws, but Like, it's recovered. It's now higher than it used to be. So why is it helping the doctor strike? Oh, and this is great because this also decreases the... It halves the healthcare vouchers cost. We have high immigration, which pushes down wages, increases racial tension. Border controls, I definitely can change it. Yeah, I can change it. I wish there was like there was a panel in which you could see what you could or could not change. I think that would be something that's very useful. Maybe there's a mod for that. I might have a look into that actually. State schools. But like that's just a QL, quality of life improvement. With compulsory ID card. Oh Jesus. Debt interest. Our interest rate is actually quite consistent because we maintain the AAA. Again, this is why we have to maintain a surplus and like a good debt GDP ratio, because otherwise, like if we start losing letters here, this goes up, and that's how you lose. Housing construction subsidy. Child benefit rent control. Like I think I'll have a tough time cutting. Welfare fraud department. The youth don't like it. Sir doesn't know income like it. The retired don't. It makes me seem less. I mean that. Yeah, it's just. I don't see why I should change it actually. Yeah, I don't. I mean, is tourism doing well? Well, it isn't because of the global economy, right? Yeah. Minus 10%. Ouch. Like you can see, I mean, I believe it was the second quarter of this year where there was the global economy and it just went boom. Yeah, I need something non-contentious. Like free school meals. System decreases obesity, albeit over what, 4 years, so it's going to take ages for it to actually take into effect, but it'll take into effect. Poor earnings will instantly go up. Parents like, there'll be more parents, they like us more. Poverty goes down. Socialists like us more. Which is, you know, as long as it's not membership. Poor like us more. How much will it cost? Nothing. Yeah, let's increase it. Now, realistically speaking, I'm not a big fan of free school meals because, from what I've seen, free school meals, sure, they're free now, but quality, massive decrease. But in the game, it's really good. Next turn. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the second year. GDP has gone up, health's gone up, education, I don't think can go any higher. Unemployment is down, crime is not, it is nil, poverty is good. We'll look at this in the third episode. Until then, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.